Merhabalar. Thank you for joining. We will conduct this in English. Today, I am joined by Ayşe Yemişçigil Jensen, Assistant Professor from Fordham University, and Melek Polat Konak, the founder of Turkish WIN, Women International Networking. So our topic is going to be the 2030 skills, leadership, and the support systems, how we are going to get ready for this era. Of course, we are going to talk about 2030, and it looks like there are many unknowns, uncertainties. So, as we will talk about these, skills required for success based on some of the research done by World Economic Forum, McKinsey, and other sources, we have a set of skills that we want to focus on today. But on the other hand, let's not forget about the unknowns, uncertainties, and things will change definitely in time. So as we are getting ready for the future, what are the skills needed? So we can actually focus on 5 areas, and today we will have a deeper dive on mainly the 2, 3 areas on the skill sets. So the first area we are seeing actively coming to front is the critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, especially complex problems. So that's going to be a focus area for most of the organizations today, how to get ready and how to build these skills. The second area is the technological and digital fluency. And as the TÜSİAD New York network, we are actually holding a lot of conversations around AI literacy, data science. So that's definitely an area now many organizations are focusing on. And today, as I said, we will focus mainly on the next three, the emotional and social intelligence, adaptability, and the ethics, sustainability, and citizenship. So, what do we mean by the emotional and social intelligence? This is mainly the area of empathy and active listening, cross cultural collaboration, inclusion, and in the adaptability, it is the resilience and stress management, which is going to be one of the key topics of today, and the growth mindset. And on the ethics, sustainability, and citizenship, how do we develop a sustainability mindset for every action we take in today's world, the organizations, considering the actually impact on the society, the environment, and how do we take ethical decisions with an inclusive mindset, with a diversity, inclusion, and equity mindset? So, as I am welcoming my actually guests here, my first question will go to Dr. Ayşe, and it's going to be about the humanistic leadership playing a role for the 2030 skills. Because as I mentioned, out of the 5 sets of key skills, 3 of them are very much linked to the humanistic leadership. And we would like to hear from you about learning with humility, curiosity, having a growth mindset, and also the collective effort to solve problems. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad to be here today together with Melek Hanım and be part of this really important conversation. And we are all in a flux right now, right? Curious about what the future is, how can we best prepare for it? And the term that is really being used these days, I don't know if you ever heard about it, but in the past it was the VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And the VUCA world was really useful. It helped us contextualize the growing uncertainty, but it was somewhat still manageable. You could still understand, predict to some extent what's going on and navigate that uncertainty. Now the new hot term in the field is it's a bunny world, and it's BANI, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. So it's kind of next stage VUCA, where we are ever more powerless, vulnerable, and it's getting harder and harder to know, to be certain, and to have an idea of what the future will hold. And I'm coming from the academic side of things. We're following the news every day about academics predicting how AI will impact jobs, and those predictions keep on changing every day. Initially, we were thinking, oh, AI will replace cognitive tasks. And now it is the cognitive tasks are only a subset. Every day we are learning AI can replace more and more human skills. What we previously thought was only reserved for human capacities are being replaced by AI. So where does that take us? And because we still want to have some agency over the situation, right? And have some idea of what to do. For me, what's really coming up, and what's maybe one skill that's underlying most of these skills, because we know that in an environment like that, if to appear clear and confident would be a facade, right? Like we need to embrace that uncertainty. And we need to continuously learn, be open to learn, grow ourselves, our teams, our organizations, be adaptive, change constantly, and so on. And we need to collaborate. We need to know that our skills, what we know, what we are capable of, may not be enough. So reach out to people other than ourselves, intersector collaborations, coming up with new ways of getting other people on board. So when you look at all of these skills, I think underlying all of them, humility is necessary for all of these things. Because when we don't have that humbleness to begin with, we cannot really act, or we cannot admit that we don't know. We cannot really reach out to other people for help. We cannot keep on learning, right? So for me, humility really comes at the forefront of all the human skills, that is kind of helpful for most of these other skills that we need to develop. Maybe I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opening. So learning or continuous learning actually is key for every age. So it is not for a specific group, I think. But I would like to ask Melek, especially about this intersection of the tech era with human working side by side. What support mechanisms can we offer to the young people who are getting ready for the world, for the organizations, for leadership? What is the role of psychological safety, and what are the new learning ways or platforms?
Thank you, Imran Hanım. I'm the founder of Turkish Win, and I've been obsessed about how to transfer knowledge, specifically to help women build careers they love. So we've been in this space targeting 18 to 25-year-olds and making sure that we can lift them with different tools. And as I delved into this space, and we are pretty much learning by doing as a Turkish Win team, it was very different even 15 years ago. When you went to a certain type of university, your path was very clear. Your university degree signaled that you are smart, you are capable, and doors opened, and you learned mostly in the formal institution. And then later informally. However, now everything is connected, as Aisha said. It's connecting the different sectors, functions, learning different things. So in this anxiety, we see a lot of young people learning from each other. So when we lack systems where we can do informal learning, from the older generation to the next generation. And we've seen them learning from their peers, because whatever we know as the former generation is not relevant anymore. So our knowledge is not relevant anymore. We subscribe to this theory of connectivism by George Simmons, a professor, who has predicted many years ago that the networks where you learn, where the learning nodes are more important than what you learn, because what you learn will be passé very quickly. The information half-time is changing. What you know is changing, which is causing all this confusion. But if you have networks of people with nodes of people who learn faster and can share what they know, then everybody is lifted forward. So the connectivism then requires us to learn in a connected way. So the silos don't work, and you have to create ecosystems where we connect people to knowledge, people to people, and people to purpose. And with digital networks, with tools and programs like mentoring, peer learning, storytelling, that's facilitated to move forward. But learning happens only when you feel safe. And we've been in the work of inclusion, and for the inclusion, the first step is to establish psychological safety. So when people feel safe to learn, to show themselves, to show what they don't know, what they don't understand, then they feel included, then they learn, and then they challenge the system to create together. Organizations need this mindset, and we need to create the psychological safe spaces for learning in different versions of learning per this theory. Learning from each other, from peers, from superiors, from people from different sectors, within the job and outside. And I'll leave it at that for your next question.
So the psychological safety is critical for all organizations actually learning, but also for innovating. Because if you don't bring your new ideas safely out there in this especially world of uncertainties, unknowns, then we will be stuck with not being able to innovate. I think that's very critical for growth, for profitability. And we always talk about the importance of inclusion actually for innovation, importance of diversity also for innovation. So while we ask organizations to adopt this psychological safety concept and inclusion and diversity, we also need another thing in the organizations. Ayşe, this is going to be for you. How do we build resilience in the organizations and well-being focus? Because that's absolutely needed in this era of uncertainties and continuous change, to be there, to have your voice, to contribute to the innovation and growth. So how do we build that inner strength individually, but also resilience as an organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. And part of the bunny is anxious, right? The A is anxious. So it is really, we have been anxious for a while in modern societies, but our anxiety has reached a new level these days with the bombardment of the news. And it's the technological advancement, but also political news, climate disasters, right? Like it's a very everything is threatening the very existence of organizations, of human beings. So what happens to us when we are faced with such threats to our existence? We shrink. And we become short-sighted. We begin to lose the big picture. We lose sight of a future vision, hope, and optimism. Right? This creates a psychology that is really difficult to navigate. And so I will approach this question a bit from a psychological perspective because that's kind of our mode, right? This is where our mindsets is how we make decisions, how we relate to each other. And if we cannot really maintain that mindset of ourselves and also collectively for each other, we are not going to be swimming these waters very well. We're going to be drowning. So, there is this idea of personal well-being. It's a crisis right now. Organizations are aware of it and also the costs of it for productivity, right? And when people are in this mindset, they can't work. They are disengaged and unproductive. And so there's a lot of investment in well-being. Generally, companies investing in like yoga sessions, mindfulness techniques, and so on. But what we are seeing is that these kind of investments aren't really working. And people don't find them, employees are cynical around these initiatives and they want real change. They want real conversations around systemic factors within the organization. It doesn't mean that these personal development initiatives are not important. Because eventually, even if we are going to change the systemic factors within an organization to create resilience systems, we need people. It's going to be people who do that work, right? So it's still going to take certain mindset, certain personal development to enact that change. So we shouldn't give up on personal development, is my take on it. Actually, if anything, we should double down on it, but just not focus on it as detached from the real issues at play. So they need to be much more blended in some way. So we see this a lot, like personal development is hugely important. And what happens is also that people individually are investing a lot in personal development to manage work demands and work stress. So in a way, they are from their own pockets and time trying to compensate what the companies are costing to them. So in a way, it is the duty of companies to get into this and to do it well and right, because not every effort will lead to outcomes. So in this landscape, when the context is so volatile, building that inner strength through personal development practices, focusing our own purpose, authenticity, our own values, and developing skills, but not one-off skills, but really more personal transformation, developing ourselves holistically, not focusing on technical skills we can apply here and there, but like who we are as a person, how can we upgrade ourselves in some way. Those kind of holistic development, like for lasting transformation becomes really, really important. But it always needs to be tied to the systemic issues, change-making capacities. How can we, as a result of that personal development, become change makers, change agents within our organizations?
So this brings me to a couple of important points, actually. One is it's related to reskilling, upskilling efforts of the organizations. Today, everybody really wants to be part of the future. Therefore, they want to see that effort from the organizations investing in their skills, either in the area they are in, deeper skills in that area, or the ability to do other work, right? So it's the reskilling and upskilling efforts and investments that companies need to put some money behind it, effort behind it in a sincere fashion. I think that's one aspect. The other aspect I hear from you is the overall culture, how we are changing or transforming as an organization. And within that, the individual, I think, transformation is very critical. So having a voice, the open conversations, building the future together, I think this is going to help the real growth, the real transformation. And in the middle of that, one of the practices that we have used in my experience was the courageous conversations, where people have an open space, they come together and discuss on a matter, but the psychological safety aspect, again, you have a courageous conversation about difficult topics that are happening in the organization, but also outside of the organization, because every day there is something happening out there. And how we feel about it is very important. So we can't ignore the impact of those external factors on our, personal life feelings and how we bring that energy to the workplace. So with that, I see an initiative that Melek is leading, which is called Story Harvesting, and it's about sharing our experiences with others and building a network and building strength as an individual, but as a community. So Melek, can you please talk about the importance of story harvesting program in building resilience?
Thank you, Imran. As you said, we are one person, one human being. We can, no matter how we slice it, ourselves at work or at home, it's the same person. So, and whatever the society and our prior experiences have been invested in us, this is how we future cast. For those who don't know story harvesting, it's a 2.5 hour workshop where we hold a psychological safe space with a lot of rules. And we first talk about why we share stories, and then we have examples of this methodology, and then break everybody into groups of 3. Where everybody in the group shares a story, is a storyteller, a story harvester, reflector, and a witness who holds the time and observes. And we knew that to learn faster or to absorb more information, we need to create places where emotions, it's okay to have emotions. Because you can go to a training on gender bias or how to find your values or to understand how to overcome challenges. But they give you models, technical case studies. Nothing lands with you with emotion. When we learn with emotion, we co-regulate with the person and practice our active listening and can then hold this information for much longer. So this is an accelerated learning practice. And it's a collective practice because we have in these circles, in these story harvesting circles, women from different ages, from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And what we are trying to get at the end of these sessions when people attend, to find your values, to find what belongs to you as a story and what you would like to do with your life, as opposed to what you are told to do, whether you can do something or you can't do something. And you feel the notion of the collective. When you go to a session, whether it's about not getting a promotion at work or doing this work-life balance or being a parent as well as a leader in your company, you learn from others and you move in the knowledge from me to we. We are trying to move to me to we because only with collective action, with collective knowledge and collective learning can we learn faster. Only with emotions, with real connection, can we make an impact in each other's lives. That's why this really builds resilience within the company, very much like the hard conversations that you have led. These are real conversations people have on a personal level about what they're feeling and on what challenge they're scaling. And it ties, when you connect to the emotions with all this agility and with all this noise that's going out in the world, you quiet down and you can turn inside. So I think we need a quiet time to really listen to what we really want. And this ties to the emotional and social intelligence skills in the companies, to active listening, to learn more about inclusion. So holding these spaces builds resilience within the company because people learn why they are there, how they can overcome what they need to overcome, and the fact that they're not alone in this. The frustration, the issue, the fear, the anger, whatever it is, they're not alone. And we're only humans. That's why I think we really need in this age of AI and everything else, we need the human connection to overcome change in psychological safe spaces. And that's where the story harvesting comes to play. We host these sessions within the companies who are trying to build resilience in various employee resource groups. We host them in communities, in universities. And we really hope, working with Ayşe and working on our theory of change, we can have quantitative study, academic research to support these claims.
Excellent. So the organizations can use it as a tool actually to
Mhm.
build safe spaces, to build resilience, and also the connectedness, I think, of their communities learning from each other. So that's great. So Aisha, how do we bring or make humanistic leadership part of the education system? What is the role of ethics in that? Because there are a lot of questions related to AI and ethics also, but the impact on people, I think overall, I mean, as things are changing, how do you keep the values, the ethics in the center of every decision we make?
Yeah, this is a really important topic, and one in which the business education world is also grappling a lot with. Because educators also need to update themselves, right? Putting together courses on AI and what do we need to teach? How can we teach something that won't be obsolete, right? In 2, 3 years, by the time the students graduate, we are all asking these questions, and that's why we are, I think, moving more and more into higher level skills, especially in management. We are less focused on um, uh, technical skills. That's really important. I think we will be managing technology a lot too. But even when we are managing technology, we will be responsible for the consequences, the ethical consequences of that technology. We usually what happens with us is that we're granted a lot of power with technology throughout centuries. Like every time there's a new technological advancement, that's greater power, greater responsibility. But if we really throw ourselves mindlessly at it, the consequences become negative. So instead of using it for our good, for our really creating something good for humanity with it, we really become a victim of it, and we suffer with the technology. So how can we take this moment and create something really beautiful, serving humanity with it? So these are the questions that we're trying to ask our students. So how can we develop that ethical, moral reasoning capacities in them so that they are more responsible users of technology? And also hold the human front, because one of the I really love this concept called I watched it some in some festival, and they mentioned this term human allegiance. So when technology starts taking over and replacing everything that we do, sometimes we need to choose something only because we value the human aspect of it. There may not be always a rational reason why humans are needed anymore, right? It may actually, if we only care about efficiency and performance, we may really completely lean into the technology. And what does that leave? Where does that leave us? And sometimes we need to choose humans for the sake of it, because we believe in it, because we want to create, we have a vision for something good, something beautiful that we can achieve together. So our shared purpose. And so it's really interesting. So what does it mean to be a human in the age of such advanced technology? These are the kind of questions. They're all moral, ethical questions that we are focusing on right now with no definite answers, but we are at least creating some reflexivity in students in the way that they engage with these questions, really difficult questions. And not so that they have set out these hard beliefs about anything, because again, going back to the humility, the pursuit of questioning, remaining curious, but that they have a reflex of that moral reasoning, of the consequences of their interactions with technology, interactions with one another. And what's really needed right now is more and more. I love that you've both brought up the courageous conversations, and
Mhm.
story harvesting is exactly doing that too. And that's why it is such a valuable intervention. We need more and more spaces with real stakes, human interactions. Young people are craving for it, and it also includes across the generations. We are increasingly afraid and anxious of talking real things with one another, making mistakes with one another. And so any educational space needs to bring more experiential, and this includes organization, experiential activities, learning activities that creates interpersonal risk. And because from that risk comes connection, how we build collective resilience when we share authentically with one another, and reason together and be vulnerable with one another. That's how we will solve, not solve necessarily, but that's not how we will navigate these difficult times.
The whole concept of authentic leadership has been on the stage for a while, but with several different crises, like the pandemic, I think we started talking more about authentic leadership, authentic communication from the leaders, the expectations of, I think, organizations, employees. I think that it's still there, right? So people are looking for, with that anxiety they are holding in this era, I think transparent, authentic communication where they can really feel part of the future, not part of an hidden agenda, but part of the future, building it together with its mistakes, vulnerabilities, and risks and everything. So, how can we be as an individual part of this future and build this future together? So, as we are talking about building the future, Melek, again, back to young people, the importance of mentoring, importance of networking, preparing them for life, I think, in this whole resilience building process. Just talk to us about your initiatives because we are in it together, and I'm a proud partner with you on this. But let's hear the importance of mentoring and networking in this era.
Well, as I mentioned before, we've been in the space of informal learning. And informal learning is about sharing stories, and that story harvesting, that's how things make sense to us in stories with emotions so that we understand each other and can reflect. Then there is mentoring, sharing experiences on a one-on-one, and networking. The former generation, I'm 52, so when they passed information to me, it was very structured. And today, so much is knowledge is so fluid. It's so difficult to get to the real solution to your problem. It's very personalized. And to get that personalized advice, it's not about asking ChatGPT because that will give you, a few prompts on circumstances. But we all need to be heard, listened to, and everybody in our tribe has a stake in us. Our parents perhaps don't want us to study abroad, so they are trying to influence us in one direction. So if there's a trusted person you are inspired by, who shares with you the raw knowledge and experience in a safe space, that's what moves the needle. And since networking and mentoring don't scale easily, because it takes a lot of matching and all of that algorithm time, we have created digital spaces and where we mobilized through our Million Women Mentor program over 1,600 volunteer mentors, 30% of whom are men. They are very much engaged in lifting young women aged 18 to 25 in these very formative years to decide what they want to study, how would they specialize, what to do on the first job. And we've seen the impact of this program with our high school pilots, because then And it's very sad because we asked before, how prepared are you in your STEM career? How much do you know about your career? So the percentage goes from 20, yes, I know about STEM careers, from 25% to 75%. But when we ask them, do you think you will take action? The needle moves from 40% to 60% because they have the layer of their parents, society, circumstances to overcome. So these informal learning is very important from the youth's perspective. They also learn from each other. We have group mentoring programs where 5 young women are joined with a facilitator in their job search. But it's also very important for organizations and for companies to supply these mentors. So hopefully with Ayşe, we will have a study everybody will share as a benchmark. But before we met Ayşe, we came across the Harvard study, that's 80-year-old study that measures what makes people happy and their impact on their well-being. And it's the connections. The happiest, healthiest people are those with strong human connections. It's not wealth, it's not fame, it's relationships. So that human element will not change. And as we decrease the human connection with the AI, with the way we learn, with the way we interact with technology, we will be increasingly unhappy. And the whole purpose of being in this planet is the pursuit of happiness.
Coaching circles is another concept that I believe for organizations is a good way of having that connected community, I should say. And regarding the Million Women Mentors, I think what I see as the power of that program, it's not only for the people outside of the organization. You can actually mentor your own people. You know, you can have reverse mentoring. You can have sometimes women to women mentoring because there are certain stages of women they need extra understanding of how they can go through those difficult periods, for example. So net, I think mentoring, coaching practices, we see still in the personal development and organizational development as key contributors, and we would recommend highly to our organizations here to adopt those. So before I move to the next and the final question, if our audience, they have any questions, they can put their questions in the Q&A box. I can refer to them. So my last question is going to be for both of you. What is the call to action to the individuals and organizations based on all the experiences and the stuff you mentioned here? What is the call to action? What they should focus on for a better, let's say, future resilience, growing organizations, but also with happy and engaged employees, I think. Ayşe, you want to go first?
Happy to. So my first, I think, call to action would be to embrace vulnerability. To really, I think there is this kind of epidemic. We're so fearful of negative experiences, and we are driven for happiness, for sure. But we cannot get to happiness by trying to constantly kill off and eliminate the negative feelings. And that may be uncertainty, vulnerability. These are one of the most common ones in the workplace, right? So I would say to go head on into difficult conversations, difficult feelings, and engage most deliberately with them rather than trying to put them under the rug. And so that embracing of vulnerability is really, really important. And another thing is to we underestimate. Melek Hanım said it so well. Like the human connection is our main need, main function for well-being, for making this life meaningful, for creating things together, for how we evolve. If you look at evolutionary theory, we came all this far because we could collaborate with one another. We could form communities and cooperate with each other. And yet we, in this hyper individualized global world, we keep on underestimating the power of community and connection. So that's kind of a pitfall. I feel we're falling again and again and again. And really having an open mind and having the humbleness to really seek out other people, greater communities and connection and collaboration opportunities, whatever they may be. They may not always have a very clear promise, right? Like a very clear outcome, productivity goal. So there is a bit of uncertainty there, but there's always something beautiful comes up when a group of like-minded people with an open, humble attitude come together to create something good. Always something magical comes up. So let's not underestimate, I think, the power of that connection. I guess that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Melek, you want to go then? And after
Yes.
that, we have a question to answer. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I think we need fearless, vulnerable, purpose-driven leaders. It's all about leadership, whether it's at your company or in your home. These psychological safe spaces and keeping these safe spaces takes work. And for you to know yourself, not to be triggered you have to do the work. You have to do the work on yourself to become the fearless, vulnerable, purpose-driven leader to hold these spaces. You cannot do it like muş gibi because it doesn't work. So we need these leaders to hold these spaces so where real connections happen. We need to do all of this together. In your company, you cannot solve the labor shortage in your industry. One company cannot do it alone. One NGO cannot do it alone. This is a collective work. It's a time for value-driven, purpose-driven leaders to get together, to collaborate, to bring bigger action, because the future is more unpredictable, more bunny by the day. People are going to be more fragile, more lonely, more unhappy, and nothing good comes out of all of this if we don't use brute force and infinite mindset to reverse and to create spaces where a positive momentum can take place. We see today fear is everywhere. So it's the war, it's unreasonable economic policies, etc. Everybody is closing the territories, the borders to make things more manageable. This is not the way to do and to go. So first, do the work on yourself. Become the aspiring, fearless, vulnerable, purpose-driven leader at home, at work, in your community. Do it collectively. Companies have a lot of force to move their industries to take on this leadership, to bring a lot of stakeholders together. And we are more than happy to collaborate with anybody on mentoring, networking, and storytelling in these dimensions.
Okay, thank you. I think we have two questions by now, and one of them is related to that self-awareness piece, and it comes from Ümit. Thank you for your question. Self-acceptance and self-awareness is key for leaders to create these safe spaces, first within themselves and then for others, the human-centric leadership. So, what's your view on the state of that capacity in people leaders, and what else needs to be done to drive real positive change? Ayşe, you want to take it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's such a great question. And you kind of, these are the foundational principles of humanistic leadership, right? That reflexivity, that self-awareness, that self-work, and how much leaders are investing in it. This is an open question. We are actually researching this as well. And an interesting question is, are we really promoting the kind of people who does this work, right? I also want to bring some attention to the followership. Leadership is really critical, the span of control, how much influence leaders have. But as a follower, followership is also really important. Who do we look up to? Who do we promote? Who do we talk about, praise among one another? And sometimes going back to the humbleness question, we have Jim Collins had this Good to Great book. It's like a very popular management book, and this book is very clearly outlining how incredibly effective humble leaders are, and in driving sustainable long-term success in organizations. And yet, when you ask people, would they prefer humility? Oh, I'm sorry, I have a cramp in my feet. It's the emotions, it's the anger. How much do they want a humble leader? How much do they look up to a humble leader? The answer is not that great. So we still underestimate humble leaders despite the evidence that they are very effective. And it's the same with us. Maybe that's the angle I want to get at with this question. Let's actually praise people who do the work, and try to promote them, try to follow them, so that we have more of those kind of individuals leading the organizations.
I can comment also,
Yeah.
Imran Hanım. I have
Yeah.
seen Spotify do very interesting work in terms of managing change and motivating people. And what they've done very interestingly is they've created a language to talk about this chaos that we live in. They've taken a professor's work, a model, and they've created a language to talk about the change, pace of change, the VUCA world and everything else. And they have a way of creating spaces for people to talk about this model. So if I can find the model, I will share it later. So that created a common language within the company. So the company talks about the chaos, accepts it, that it's not happening, it's not going to be this and that. There's a way to process this information. There's a way to accept the change. There's a way to accept there's going to be uncertainty. And the leadership brought a dictionary of how to do things, how to manage these things, and different processes. I find that also very helpful because it's a tool set that you can share and help your teams and managers navigate their own teams.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. We have another question. Thank you, Begüm Bartık, for the question. In today's fast and tech-driven world, staying resilient while dealing with our own vulnerabilities isn't easy. We are expected to be strong, adapt quickly, keep with constant change, and never stop learning. So with all that going on, how do we find and protect a healthy balance between work and life? This is the question of all eras, but especially in this era, how do we do that, Ayşe?
Yes, it's not an easy question to answer. I think everybody, including all academics who are experts, particularly on this topic, are struggling with this. I don't think anybody figured out the perfect answer for this question. But I think radical inner transformation is needed on the individual side. Like individually, what can you do to really stand in the middle of this storm that constantly demands things of you? This is not going to be easy with a couple of breathing techniques. It requires really radical inner transformation and support also, not only individuals to get some support. And norms are really important. We need to model, like going back to the leader's role. When a leader models a healthy balance between work and life, it's the easiest way to enable that within the organization. But once leaders don't model it, it is really hard. And there's this really interesting research that came out lately, and they found that managers who want people to, for example, write on their email, I'm out of work, I won't respond outside of working hours, those kind of gestures or tags that signal to the world that you're trying to maintain a healthy work-life balance completely backfire. They negatively impact promotion decisions. And so even though people, even when managers say that they want it, they can't help shake off the feeling that employees are using it as a way to slack and so on. So it is really leaders have a huge responsibility with that one. It's harder to enforce it when you don't have that much of power within the organization. So it starts with a leader. And then the question is, how are we going to get those kind of leaders who will have the courage and vision to really be seriously promoting a healthy work-life balance. And that goes back to all the self-awareness, self-acceptance, the inner work that leaders need to engage with in order to have that kind of broad shoulders and humanistic view of enabling this.
Melek, any additional thoughts on this?
Well, I have this view. I think leadership, like anything else, is an art. And the artists are rare. So it's not for everybody. So knowing what you are cut out for and where you feel the joy of producing the work is, I think, our search for meaning. And that's very different for different people. In companies, we have the choice as leaders or employees, if the work culture is not providing this balance, we have to pack up and work somewhere else. Because only with the talent voting to be in psychological safe spaces where you are valued for your contribution, not your FaceTime, where humility is valued, I think those companies will thrive, and they will be more sustainable in the long run. These toxic cultures and the companies run with these toxic cultures in the next 25 years, we'll see different companies emerging. So all this forecast that there will be a Fortune 500 company with 5 employees, all of those will come more and more true. So the talent will run the market forces, and we will all find a space where we feel good at and feel comfortable producing what we are good at. But these kind of the leadership that Ayşe is talking about is an art, and it takes a lot of work. So there's a space for everyone.
What I can add is I think we should stop trying to be perfect. There is room for error, discovery, reflection, and also, despite everything that's around us, I think we still need to find some areas of focus. We can't be lost in this era of so many, lots of information, lots of things to learn, but you still need, I think, some focus. So it's again part of that reflection, finding your joy, as you say, where do you get the most productivity, but joy at the same time. So we are perfect on time. Thank you for joining us, both Ayşe and Melek and all the participants, listeners for this webinar. Of course, we believe in the power of technology, AI, and everything it will bring to us, but we also see that the humanistic leadership is going to be there with us in the foreseeable future. So what we need to do is, as individuals and organizations, I think, need a lot of learning from each other, give room to mentoring and coaching. We talked about courageous conversations, story harvesting, the power of connectedness and networking, and also making sure that ethics and the values and the purpose is in the core, in the center of all of these conversations. So thank you very much and have a very good day or evening wherever you are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.